This is going back many years ago. We did not have, or I didn't have the helicopter support that I have today. So a lot of the work that I was asked to do involved having to do everything on foot. And, one would think it's really exciting, but walking through the bush and darting animals on foot with rhino, I can tell you now, it's exciting at times, yes, but it's not for the faint-hearted. And when I first started working here, I was not that familiar with rhino, in particular black rhino. So it was a species I didn't know. I didn't know its behavior, and I had a lot to learn. And I think, in retrospect, the best way to learn was actually to go out, physically track them, see what their behavior was on foot, and yes, work with them like I did. And in this particular instance, I was asked to notch, which is a description of what we do with rhino to mark them. We notch the ears. We put V notches in the ears, which gives them a distinctive number, which enables the particular reserve management to monitor these animals. So I went up to Mkuzi Game Reserve and spent a couple of days up there and to notch black rhino. And by that stage, I had learned a little bit, but I was still pretty nervous. And I think that the staff that I was working with were also knew that I was still green and still had a lot to learn. And in any case, this was a rhino that they'd spotted, and it was lying in an open area on a slope of a hill. And there were a couple of aloe trees around, I remember that, and some rocks. And it was sort of lying in a sort of depression with some rocks around it, sort of basking in the sun. And the only way I could approach it was sort of from downhill, and right next to the rhino, there was only one place I could take cover, and that was a very small, and it's a paperbark tree. So I can't remember the name, but I just know it's like corkwood. It's not a tree you climb. You're going to fall out of it. The branches are very brittle. But the rationale of trying to approach this rhino was, at least if I get behind it, I should be okay. And as we got closer, I was with a very experienced tracker. He was a great guy, and I had a lot of respect for him. And we approached slowly and slowly, and we made no noise, and the wind was all right. And I realized that I'd really have to get close, because all I could see of the rhino was its outline on the top. So I had no place to dart. And I wanted to get close enough that I could dart in the nuchal hump, which is the slight hump that the black rhino have behind their heads. I got to the tree, so now this is a relief. At least I've got some little bit of cover. But even there, I could not get a dart in, and the rhino was now only 3 meters away from me. So I gestured to the game guard, who I've now known, fairly well, that he must take my dart gun and inject the rhino, because I knew if he's going to inject it, it's going to have to be from 2 meters away, because he's going to have to go forward and put the dart into almost from downhill into the neck. And he looked at me and he shook his head vigorously and he said, "Oh, no, it's my job." So it's exactly what I did. I had to step out, and I've never darted a rhino from that distance before. It was literally 2 meters. And as I darted it, the game guard grabbed me and pulled me behind the tree and then held me. His grip was so tight around my arms that I had to loosen his fingers eventually. The reason being that he was worried I was going to run, because had I run, I had nowhere to go. The rhino would have caught me, and there would have been all sorts of injury. So he was looking after me, and he held me tightly and ensured that I was not going to run. And it was this heart-throbbing moment, stopping moment, where this rhino obviously got a fright. It jumped up. It had no idea where this noise and impact had come from. and all he could do was stare at the tree. And rhino eyesight is not that great, and so we kept absolutely dead still, and the tree was just breaking our silhouette. So he wasn't sure, but he stared. It was a face-to-face confrontation with this guy holding me tight and trying to make me as small as possible. There's this rhino looking at us from such a close distance. I think I stopped breathing, and eventually the drug started to work, and I saw it because the rhino staggered. And it was that moment that I sort of was able to breathe a little bit, because at least I knew that something's happening. This rhino is going to go to sleep. And sure enough, it's as it affected the rhino, it just staggered off and went to sleep right near us, and we were able to notch it. Yeah, that was a heart-stopping moment, and something I won't forget for a very long time, and not something I'm likely to do very quickly. Again, I would think twice about it. I think we were lucky, and I had a very experienced field ranger with me.